Hi there, this is Lopan Yudron coming at you from Ngakchang Gotsel, that's Tibetan, the Happy Garden of Practitioners in Oakland, California. Today we're going to be talking about, the topic is practice dawns. And the point of this talk is that, while we can talk a little bit about how your actual meditation unfolds, it goes along with it's in harmony with. Same time, a good quality should be arising within you that signify to everyone around you. Everybody knows, the practice has penetrated your heart. It's obvious. For example, I was thinking of a acquaintance of mine who's an older practitioner than I am, better practitioner than I am, and just a couple of years ago, it really struck me. She came up to me and said, like she was asking advice from me, that's amusing. And she came up at an event, maybe at a Dharma center, and said, Yudron, I just want to know what you think about this. I make offerings everywhere, all day long. And making offerings is like a Buddhist practice where you kind of make a connection with that enlightenment by making offerings, so generally to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or if you're you can also make offerings to all living beings. I think she was thinking about like Guru Rinpoche, Buddha, like that. She said, I'm putting them up in the crooks of trees and this and that. Just, it happens in the course of my day, and I'm wondering, do you think are they going to go bad? Do I need to take them down? Is this a bad practice? Because I'm just like, no, I think it's fine. Don't worry about it. Because to a practitioner, it's obvious that this is someone who's just bloomed from inside. And it's just a natural outpouring of their, what we can say, realization. That's a fancy word implying a certain accomplishment, but really, the Dharma, there's an example used in the early sutras from the Buddha of being like a regular tree in a forest of sandalwood trees. Sandalwood is this incredible, beautiful fragrance that's used for incense now, an endangered species, sadly. So to tree, like an ordinary tree, can become smelling and beautiful like a sandalwood tree just by being surrounded by sandalwood trees. So that example could be used for many things, and one of the things is like just this absorption, this penetration of the practice throughout your entire life. And I myself am not that evolved. I was, this last few days I've been dealing with trolls on my Facebook page, for example, and I this morning it just kind of reached threshold, so that brings up a set of feelings. But at the same time, I have I notice when I pick up my iPhone and I'm going to Instagram, Twitter, as soon as I pull Twitter up, a little voice comes inside that says, I love you. And it's not something that I plan. I think, I should make a project. I need to put a sticky note on not a bad idea, but put a sticky note on my monitor or on my cell phone, just write I love you there and just contemplate that. No, it's just like naturally, for even an old bum like me, from practicing a lot, those loving, universal loving feelings percolate up eventually through the hard ground. So I kind of want to talk about that kind of thing, although we'll talk about meditation itself also. Have you ever wondered whether you're really moving forward in your practice, or whether you're slipping, maybe going backwards, or just being untouched by it? This is the kind of thing we're going to touch base with today. So, Tenzin Punsokla, Tashi Delek. Tashi Delek is, auspicious greetings in Tibetan. And so, I remember, for example, when I was starting out, and I may have told this story before, forgive me, but I remember clearly driving across Illinois. Seems like it was Illinois, on a highway, and somehow somebody did something that scared the bejesus out of me. And on their car, going high speed on a highway. And up till that point, I've been reciting Vajrasattva mantras. It's some purification mantra, beautiful, practice of light purifying, nectar purifying all defilements. And I'm going saying my mantra, blah, 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 while I'm driving. And then this happens, and I naturally, shouted out in my car, F you, and then went back. So it shows you how these, at that point, maybe it's still, who knows what would happen now if I was in the same situation. But early in my practice, the practice was on one side of me, and the life was on another side, and they hadn't come together sufficiently to prevent me from cursing out a fellow driver who scared me. So anyway, I just, when you think about somebody might come here who's, has a concept about Buddhism, that it's all about peace, and it is largely about peace. Really pacifying our own mind. That is 90% of Buddhism, truly. But anybody can sit and create this. It's called shamatha. Calm abiding is one way of putting that, tranquility meditation. In a number of different ways, the most common of which is like paying attention to your breath. Out breath, again and again, bringing your attention back gently and kindly to your breath. And pretty soon you'll be in a much more relaxed state if you're not too, if you're in the middle of an anxiety attack, that wouldn't be true. But for most of us, we can create a kind of place of peace in ourselves by doing that, and eventually we're able to focus first for a few seconds and for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And it creates a yummy feeling that you want to do it more and more naturally because of that. And so it's a good way. At the same time, you're being more aware of, what your thoughts are doing inside your mind. Look at my hands here. Shooting across your brain here, coming up from your heart there, feelings coming up here, thoughts going zip, 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 all mixed together, and all this, the big mess that we have that we notice for the first time we start practicing. That's pretty soon you get used to that. And so that's, that all practices have a quality like that. You got to focus in some way, be present at least, and instead of chasing after your thoughts. So there's a natural evolution to that. It can be done outside of the framework of Buddhism per se. What does Buddhism bring to the table? What changes us when we marry that shamatha and other, vipassana, this insight meditation, and vajrayana practices to our Buddhism. And what are some of the signs of change? Well, actually the first, in Tibetan Buddhism, it may well be the first practice you do is kind of playing the big picture. So we embrace the idea of a cycle. Actually, it's not a good thing. But of life, beginning, ending, an intermediate state perhaps, and then starting again from birth and death and over again. And they're called the Wheel of Samsara, right? And at least in my tradition, we start out contemplating the elements of that. Well, nothing is permanent, and really accepting that. Well, boy, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm a human this time around, and I've been exposed to Dharma, contemplating that, Wow, there's a lot of suffering going on around here. Everything's changing, and that's one thing. Impermanence is happening, changeability. And as a result, suffering. And then the patterning that we have from lifetime to lifetime of repeating over and over the same ignorant way of being, even if we think we're really smart. So if you've contemplated these in any which way, whatever your tradition, the big picture, the multi-lifetime picture, you lose interest naturally in everyday, the problems that we have, and also the joys that we have. They're great. Well, problems are great, joys are great, at least we're alive, right? But it goes, it becomes less a fixation, and you dwell less long on whatever this particular thing is that springs up in the moment. So you become less dramatic, drama queens. Less of a drama queen, right? Okay, that's happening, I remember Lama Tsering from South America now said one time in a talk that I heard in person, just think at any time, well, what she did anyway. She said, every time I'm thinking the next thing comes to that door is probably going to be trouble. And that's no surprise. Trouble's going to come in through that door. And so when you pull back and you see the big picture, it changes you. It touches your life. And so you can see that in a person. They're not having... they're not freaking out over smaller things, sweating the small stuff, as they say. Then there's also a shift in perception. So that because we're not replaying our old stories about certain people, about certain places or events, we're fresher, greeting a situation in a more open and less defended way. And not imposing upon a situation as much. I mean, our human brain automatically does that, but we naturally change to having a more fresh and open relationship to what might happen in any moment. Maybe trouble won't come through that door. Maybe a joy will come through that door. Maybe something else completely. Also, we're just able to settle ourselves. That comes with any kind of meditation, right? But, okay, there's something comes at you and it's upsetting. It's not like you're not going to react at all. You're not a robot. But you're able to relax around it, to soften and relax. Very much quicker than people who don't practice. So you can see that in people. And also you become less defensive because there's less of a concretizing your sense of self all the time, making it into a big story about you and stuff. I was just watching yesterday that old Martin Short skit. It was actually a series of skits he did about, what was the name of that character? Maybe somebody can tell me, but on Saturday Night Live. And it was a character, I think he based it on someone he met, that no matter what the person said, especially if they confronted him about something, he'd say, no, I didn't. And then he'd say, why would you even think that? What would come into your mind? What's wrong with you that you would think that? And then, the other thing he would say repeatedly was, I know that. If he loses completely, I know that. It's like the three statements, And we become less like that over a long period of time. It's not overnight. So we're able to handle when somebody criticizes us better. Of course, we have to have boundaries. You know, we have to have limits. We can't let people trot all over us like horses playing. That's not okay. But you know what I mean. Then another thing I was thinking about is, of course, love and compassion increase. But honestly, a lot of people I know have love and compassion. For the thing about Buddhism is it stresses the evenness of that love and compassion, right? The equalness of all sentient living beings. So, you naturally you're going to get all your stereotypes about people or even animals are going to break down, and your love is extended out and wider and wider and wider to encompass everyone, and less resentment towards certain groups of people, stereotyping of groups of people, making caricatures, in your mind about a certain kind of person, Republicans, rich people, Democrats, the whole story that you write up about these people in your mind. Very easy to do. It's very easy for me to do. That unravels. At least you can have a chuckle about it when you fall into that way of thinking. There's less general sense of paranoia, and the whole world is out to get you. The government's out to get you. The people are out to get you. Your family's out to get you. The family next door is out to get you. People are just, you more accept that everybody wants to be happy. As the Dalai Lama says all the time, everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be sad and upset. So you just get more of a parental feeling towards when people are misbehaving, and being nasty. You have more of a maternal sense, like, oh, they don't know what harm they're doing themselves by being that way. So it naturally, without contriving it, but initially you can contrive it. And you begin to get a sense of when Buddhist words like egolessness, selflessness, what do they mean? What does emptiness mean? You can try, but you can't really get at it without practicing. So over time, you'll see that you finally understand what's going on there. What does it mean when they say egolessness, selflessness, reducing your sense of self, this kind of thing? That language comes to make sense because through your practice, you haven't found any really existing I or self there. And that sounds like you're becoming if you have never practiced before, that sounds like you're becoming some kind of loser. Everybody steps on, you don't have any, strength within you, but that's not like that. So it's experiential and a beautiful thing, like a flower that blossoms in your heart where you're this sense of presence without a thing there, a soul even. I'm going to go that far. That's not solidified into any kind of concept. I'm like this, I'm not like that. And then your personal needs, therefore, these things that you thought were absolutely essential, decrease. So the need to control your environment more and more, like I absolutely must have the right kind of readers on my table here. Otherwise, the world is going to fall apart. What if personal, I can't be in another meeting with that guy. It's going to kill me. Yes, you can. All these stories we tell ourselves about what we can and can't do, they kind of dissolve. Again, not meaning you become is there a Yiddish word, nebbish? Not becoming person doesn't have any direction or boundaries. That's not like that. So just a couple more things I would say. This grandiose feelings of that you're a real expert at something. Some people feel they're an expert at everything. I used to be that way. I thought just by virtue of weekend workshop, I was an expert on that, this, and that, and my opinions were really important and valid and so forth. But when you meet I remember one time talking to a gynecologist who was nearing retirement, my gynecologist, and he just said, I learn something new every day. Every time I think I haven't at all exhausted just the narrow field of gynecology, right? So people like that, that's who we want to emulate. But it naturally happens from practice. The grandiosity should decrease. If it's going in the other direction, it's an issue. It's a problem, because pride is a real essential of the, all the afflictive emotions are broken down to 5, right? And pride is really important because it's the most invisible to ourselves. It doesn't mean confident. You can have confidence and be strong, but it's this creating a big story about it and becoming an expert on everything. Having a lot of opinions is another thing. As Lamasunam Rinpoche said, a sign of accomplishment is people have fewer opinions. And so that's a hard one to take, isn't it? We all like to we're really attached to our opinions, but naturally, a lot of position taking as an individual to, in adversity, opposition to somebody else or allegiance to somebody else, all the need for that kind of, it reduces in us. So those are just some things I wanted to mention. As we're A through J, you can add up the numbers there, J points about what actually you see in real life, in yourself and in others when practice has really taken root in them. And there's 2 ways you can cultivate these things. Actually, 2 days you can experience these changes. The most common one is I like gardening metaphor. I like plant metaphors because I like plants. But my Lama Pema Dorje Rinpoche named this house the Happy Garden of Practitioners. And I often think, that really is true. It's like everything could be a garden metaphor. Or a wilderness metaphor. And, there's some very subtle ways of practicing, like Dzogchen, Mahamudra, this kind of thing, exalted, very easy to mislead yourself and not, in them. It takes a long time to really find your seat in those practices, and they're very excellent. But that's more like a wilderness experience within all these qualities without having to cultivate them individually all at once. Gradually, really, they come up. They bring like a tree going in a forest, unplanted by anyone. Nobody gave it fertilizer. It just naturally grew in its own place. That's like those exalted practices. But here we're talking about cultivating a garden, which is, for us beginners, is the best kind of metaphor. So what do you do when you make a garden? Well, first of all, you have to have a seed, and your seed is your Buddha nature. You're in your heart, the covered or veiled kind of natural qualities of awakening that you have within you. And so we have that already. Nobody needs to give it to us. We don't need to make it. Then you have to clear some land, clear a place for that garden, clear out the weeds. So that in that sense, the weeds might be, I would say, thoughts and feelings. If you have such a messy mind, just all crammed full to the rafters with thoughts and feelings and random stuff coming up all the time. You're chasing after this thought. You're, rejecting this thought and stuff. It's like a big tangled bunch of weeds, and you do have to clear some space in that. So that's so some kind of practice that cultivates insight And mindfulness is very important. And then you have to put a boundary, a fence around it in order to keep out the deer and other animals that would definitely eat your vegetables. So you're creating a safe space for that. So there's a lot of ways in which we create a safe space for that. But I would say the number one way is taking refuge, making a decision. We're doing the Buddha way. And it's great to go and do a ceremony with someone, a teacher or a monk or a nun, and decide for yourself. This is your place of refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then you have a garden with a little wall around it in which you can nurture the seed. And so when it's strong, it doesn't need the wall anymore. But this is a kind of fence idea. Then you might go test the soil in the garden. We do that as gardeners. We check, see what the pH is, what are nutrients available, all the nutrients we need, what's going on in that soil. And that's we have to look honestly at our minds. And this is an ongoing process because we can't bear to see everything. Our qualities that aren't so positive are difficult to look at. And so over time, you'll be able to look at yourself without judging. Oh, you're bad, or you're fantastic. Just dispassionately. I still have work in this area. I still have work in the area of evenness, equality, wisdom. There's certain political figures that I stereotype and characterize and feel no compassion for, really, at times. For example, and I have bitterness and resentments and these kind of things. So just knowing that, the I, Yudron, has these things. And knowing it, just gently recognizing that those are there. It allows space, air to come in. And so this is like we're testing the soil. We're looking and seeing what is our mind like, really honestly. And honestly, you can say without getting carried away, there's good qualities there. A lot of the people I know, like I just said, I have the most wonderful people that come to my classes. The small group classes. I don't know what it is, but I just have the amazing people that are so kind, generous, gentle, compassionate people. They don't need years and years of practice on love and compassion for others. They may need it for themselves, So they may want to focus on a different area that's not so strong in them, So assessing yourself, that's like testing the soil. And then, making the soil nice by adding what's needed to it, I need to do some shamatha. I need to do some vipassana. I need to bring in that Guru Rinpoche masterful energy, wisdom awakening, by doing the 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche. You can look at my video on that, or the Vajraguru mantra. You need that nourishment, that bringing in, connecting with the mastery of all dharmas. That kind of thing. You know what nutrient to give, and you give it. And you can help. This is where reliance on a teacher who's way farther, more experienced than you are, really super helpful. And then you actually plant the seed. You make that commitment. You go for it. Put that seed in the ground and water it. And then eventually you'll harvest an amazing fruit. So that's my metaphor for today. So we're getting towards the end of our half hour, and I want to, a couple of weeks ago, I forgot to check in with people. I asked people to say, if there's anyone watching this who watched my 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche video and went and practiced for a week every day, saying the 7-line prayer 7 times, resting, meditation once a day for 7 days. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You can pop on at any time, in any Monday, and tell me how that went. I'd really like to know. Today, I think that what comes to mind is, during the next week, it would be really great if you'd focus on impermanence, And impermanence mean really seeing that this house that I'm in, that I bought, is, remembering it was built. Trees were grown to create this house, redwood trees that were cut down, probably maybe up on that hill above there 100 years ago, dragged down the hill, cut into 1-inch slabs. This house was built. And someday this house will fall down. It probably won't be all that far off. Maybe if it's built out of wood, redwood, it might be a few years, a few hundred years even. But cultivate the rising of your life, babyhood, adulthood, and how you're going to pass away. Will people remember you for very long? Probably not. Cultivate, contemplate impermanence this week. I would suggest that. If you're interested in going further with Tibetan Buddhism and you don't already have a situation in which to do that, I will be offering a class on the Dakini Heart Essence foundational practices. So it's a point of entry into Vajrayana practice, but it incorporates all levels of Buddhist practice. And that'll be starting on the 7th of June, 2021, 7 p.m. to 7:45, and there'll be a talk and then practice, and go for 6 weeks. Contact me if you need to know anything more about that. Nice to see you, Tenzin. Thank you for coming. I think somebody else joined us today. Many people will join us afterwards. I hope that was helpful. If you need anything, let me know. Take care now. Bye-bye.